Thank you very much. Sorry for the interlude, but we are back on track. My name is Valerio Malenchino. I am the product manager for database languages at Neo4j. And today I would like to talk to you briefly about using openCypher as a path to GQL. openCypher has a long history. There are people in the room there that know very well about it because they started it. But the project launched in 2015. And at the time, the idea was already to try to unify the Open Graph, to unify the property graph community around a common language. That in the case was Cypher. So Neo4j made the specification of Cypher open source, and we started building some artifacts to help other people to implement the language. And that was quite, well, I think the initiative was more successful than expected, to be frank. In a few years, we had several openCypher implementation available. But then, as you well know, in 2019, something big happened because the ISO announced the project for GQL, and the openCypher project was in all effect frozen. No more extensions were added because Neo4j and most of the openCypher community got involved into the GQL project. In spite of the project being frozen, so no new language extensions were proposed and discussed, still we had the number of people the number of implementation of openCypher kept growing until very recent time, till now. And then finally, we had the GQL standard became a standard a few months back, and this is where we are today. Just a little summary of Cypher and GQL relationships. They are by history and by nature very similar. And so we have this, what I usually use, that's the poster Cypher query. That is the first query we ever show to people about Cypher. That is Cypher, but is also GQL. So this similarity does not mean that they are identical, obviously. There are significant differences. And if you look at GQL wearing openCypher glasses, you look at the spec, and broadly speaking, you can see, you can classify features in a number of big categories. There are features in GQL that are already in openCypher. There are some that are minor syntactic variation of what features that are in openCypher. And this is mostly, not exclusively, but mostly due to the attempt of unifying terminology and syntax between, where possible, between SQL and GQL. And the typical example is the insert versus the openCypher create. And then there is the interesting category of real addition to what is in openCypher. And this is completely my classification, but there are some minor improvement to openCypher, like, for example, improvement to the simple case statement. And there are very significant major improvements, like the significant extension to graph pattern matching that GQL has compared to openCypher. And we should not forget, it's also important to remember that there's an opposite side too. There are features of openCypher that are not in GQL. Some of them might end up in GQL in the future, some might never be there. So this is the delta that we see. Now, if we look, what is the road to GQL? But I think that's, well, both on Neo4j and for what it says in the broader property graph community, everybody agrees that the future of property graph languages is GQL. So that's the future. So how do we make that present as quickly as possible? And I think from a product manager point of view, the important point are we need a good implementation, ready for production, available as soon as possible, and I underline the ready for production. Beta version, experimental release, these are all good and they all have a purpose. but till there is no GQL in production, the difference we can make to users is limited. And then we need keen users ready to adopt the language. And openCypher happened to have both. So taking into account the similarity of the two languages and taking into account the current state of openCypher implementation, my assumptions is that helping the openCypher ecosystem to transition to GQL will speed up the adoption of the standard. That is my starting point. So how do we make how do we help people to move to GQL quick? So there is a bit of an assumption that is at least partially true, that by the fact of being an ISO standard, everybody will want to be using a standard language. That is true, but when you end up having to prioritize features in a product, that is not the only consideration. There are a lot of other things that come into play and that can slow down the implementation of GQL. What would make it easier? Well, if it helps a lot in the decision of implementing complex extensions. I'm thinking, for example, to graph pattern matching. This has to be justified by satisfying customer needs that cannot be satisfied today. So that's a very important motivation to adopt new language features. And there's another one that is, as I said before, there are very recent implementation of openCypher. Somebody has spent time and money to implement openCypher fairly recently. And all the openCypher implementers have spent years on it. So preserving the existing development investment is definitely a consideration to take into account. If we look at users instead of implementers, where as far as the functionality is concerned, it's very similar. Even for them, adopting new things is important if they can do more than they could do before. And they too have invested, in this case, probably more time than money in openCypher already. So they have probably a lot of queries to maintain in production that are openCypher, and they spend time in improving their skills in the job. So, well, this is a huge simplification. I tried to put in the slides quite a lot of ideas, so I had to summarize a lot. But this gives an idea of things that need to be considered if we want to encourage people to move to GQL from openCypher. And like a simple example of what does it mean? Well, extension like graph pattern matchings are a better motivation than other things that are in GQL that are like syntactic or minor changes on what is already there. We need both. We need, because at the end of the day, having the standard language is what we all want. But it is important then to take into account this consideration when we propose features in the language. So in practice, so this after this, what are we planning to do with openCypher? Well, first of all, openCypher stops being a forum for language discussion as it was in the origin, because now we have a better forum, that's ISO. That's the place to discuss language evolution. This should not come as a surprise, and it's probably obvious. And it is one of the reasons why the openCypher project has been frozen now for a number of years. But openCypher can become a GQL implementation project. And that means so we can try to make it easier for openCypher implementers to start implementers and users to move to GQL. In practice, what are we doing at the moment? We're planning to branch the openCypher project, as you know, has a number of artifacts. They sit in a GitHub repo. We are planning to branch the repo. There will be a branch that we probably call openCypher 9.1. That is the existing openCypher. We don't want to force anybody to do things they don't want to do. If they like openCypher as it is and have no intention of doing anything about it anymore, there will be a branch that stays there with all the artifacts as they are today. If you're wondering about the 9.1, so the original openCypher was called Cypher 9, the version of Cypher in openCypher. And after that, in the years after the creation of the project, a number of language extensions were proposed, discussed, and approved, and that makes the 0.1 the new extension on top of the original release. But there will be another branch, another main branch, that will be the migration of openCypher towards GQL. That branch will start from openCypher 9, that is the starting point, and then we'll add GQL features in a way that is as friendly as possible to the openCypher community. So the new branch will have very similar artifacts to what we have for the existing openCypher. So there will be openCypher at specification documents called SIPs, like Cypher Improvement Proposals. There will be Cypher Improvement Proposal, but it's very important to say they will come from the GQL specs. So there will be no non-GQL features proposed in SIPs. And the order in which they will appear over time, and the order will try to have a healthy mix of things that people would really like, new features and modification to existing features. There will be a new openCypher grammar, so that's another artifact. And it's important in there, since, as I said, we start with openCypher. There will be openCypher features that are not in GQL, and those will be clearly marked in the grammar as Cypher extensions. And the feature in openCypher that have a valid GQL replacement will be marked as well clearly, and that is to help implementers to have some GQL strict mode that just offer the GQL conformant version in case there are options. Another artifact that is there and that will keep updating is the TCK that will start from the existing openCypher scenarios and will be extended as we extend openCypher. The idea is to have to start adding GQL features and have periodic releases, roughly, let's say every 6 months, that will have just some sort of formal calendar version. So there is some timing intermediate target for people interested in implementing it. And as far as that frame is concerned, we have been working on it for quite some time already. And so I hope that by September, the latest October, there will be a first release in the new branch, and that will include the grammar, the text BNF grammar. So the grammar format will be different from the current one because it will be more aligned with the WG3 grammar format. And the first grammar will include, and the first SIPs as well. Let's go back. The first grammar will include what is in Cypher 9.1, plus some additional GQL features. I'm quite keen in having something that puts us on the road of the graph pattern matching extension. But then we should try as well some simple like renaming and small changes, and insert is a very good candidate because it's quite high visibility. For the grammar, there will be SIPs, and for the TCK, that will very likely in the first version just cover Cypher 9 scenarios, with more scenarios due to the changes coming soon. So this will be a first release, and then we'll have to pace ourselves to have some sort of continuous addition of features. That 2 or 3 ships per quarter is, I guess, we'll see how it goes, but will be something along those lines. And it's very likely, as I was saying, that the TCK might lag a bit behind because it's a lot of work and we need to pace ourselves, as I was saying. If anybody is willing to help, so we have some quite good GQL experts in the team. But of course, more eyes are always welcome. So if anybody is interested in review the SIPs and the grammar for conformance, that be most welcome. And also anybody willing to help TCK, this tends to be quite a work for the release grammar. That as well is something useful. And I think that is all I have to say. So if there are any questions, I'm here.
Valerio, it's Alistair. I have one quick question, and that is, am I right in, this is a great initiative. Really appreciate the work that's going into it. Am I right in saying that the schema side, like the graph type side of GQL, is not high on your priority list?
You are right, due to the origin of openCypher, as you well know. Yes, that is not very high in the priority.
Yep. Okay.
It's unlikely to come very early. Yep. Yes.
So the fact that we're emphasizing, Michael was reporting the emphasis in GQL implementation working group within LDBC on the catalog schema and DML conformance with schema. That's like that meshes in this, or it doesn't mesh. It doesn't collide with what you're doing.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Cool.
It doesn't.
Thank you.